on January 6th. What happened to the United States' reputation is horrible. We had a big victory against a man that really is looking to destroy our country. He's the worst. He's the most corrupt. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Well, it's been 4 days since Joe Biden's disastrous performance at the CNN presidential debate. Joe Biden's memory and ability to think on his feet is not a joke that the people who are close to Joe Biden would tell him to stand down. Jill Biden is either in denial or is so power hungry that she cannot do what is best for her country, which is like watching a car crash play out in slow motion every day.
SCOTUS shields Trump. The Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity has sent shockwaves through the political landscape, and it's clear that the fallout is only beginning. The court's decision to offer immunity for what they're calling official acts has left a lot up to interpretation by the very judges who made the ruling. This ambiguity plays right into Trump's hands, giving him a virtual assurance that his D.C. prosecution won't go to trial before the 2024 election. Justice Clarence Thomas didn't stop there. In his opinion, he threw a curveball by questioning the constitutionality of appointing a special counsel to prosecute a former president. This wasn't even an issue in the case, but Thomas's comments have given Trump's legal team a new angle to attack. They're now pushing to dismiss the Florida case outright, claiming that the use of special counsels is unconstitutional despite their long-standing history since the 1800s. Thomas's move is seen as a signal to Judge Eileen Cannon in Florida, hinting that if she dismisses the case, she might have his support. This unexpected twist is corruption piled on top of corruption, and it has far-reaching implications. If Trump is elected, he would be a lawless president, emboldened by the Supreme Court to act with impunity. The threat of prosecution waiting for him on the other side only fuels his desire to cling to power. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent was a fiery rebuke, calling the ruling a five-alarm fire for self-government. She argued that the court's decision turns the Constitution upside down, granting a cloak of immunity for ordinary crimes committed under the guise of official acts. This creates a dangerous precedent, one that Justice Sonia Sotomayor echoed, warning that no president has ever had reason to believe they could be immune from criminal prosecution for using their office to violate the law. This ruling is not just about Trump. It sets a precedent for future presidents to misuse their power without fear of prosecution. The Supreme Court's decision effectively gives Trump the green light to act as a dictator, accountable to no one but the court itself.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Today's Supreme Court decision, almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. It's a dangerous precedent. Gutting voting rights and civil rights, to taking away a woman's right to choose, that undermines the rule of law of this nation.
Immunity sparks debate. The Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity has ignited a fierce debate across the nation. Chief Justice John Roberts tried to downplay the decision, calling it wholly disproportionate to its actual impact. However, the reality is that this ruling grants absolute immunity to presidential acts, creating a vast zone of conduct that is now untouchable by prosecutors. During oral arguments, both sides acknowledged that some official actions are immune from prosecution. However, the Supreme Court has now carved out a significant chunk of conduct as officially immune, leaving a narrow path for prosecutors to challenge. This decision will heavily impact the ongoing prosecution of Trump, making it almost impossible for his case to go to trial before the election. The ruling has created a complex legal landscape where each instance of Trump's alleged misconduct must be meticulously scrutinized to determine if it was an official act or a private one. This process will involve lengthy litigation and appeals, effectively delaying any trial until after the election. The ruling also complicates the work of prosecutors, who now have to argue before judges that certain actions were not official despite the court's presumption. Justice Sotomayor's dissent was a powerful counterpoint, warning that the ruling grants future presidents a dangerous level of immunity. She argued that the decision undermines the principle that no one, not even the president, is above the law, Her concerns echo those of many legal experts who fear that this ruling sets a dangerous precedent for unchecked presidential power. The Supreme Court's decision has also sparked outrage among political commentators and analysts. Many see it as a blatant attempt to shield Trump from accountability and to pave the way for a more authoritarian presidency. The ruling has been described as a devastating blow to democratic norms and a step toward a more dictatorial government.
Yesterday's Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity, we know that Chief Justice Roberts said that the president is not above the law.
When we have a candidate in Donald Trump who's openly said he'll be a dictator on day one, it is very likely that he could be immune from those kinds of acts. Thought that we could have a president in the White House who thinks he's immune, that office, that include weaponizing the Department of Justice against his political enemies, or being a dictator on day one.
Implications for 2024. The Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity is not just a legal decision, it's a political bombshell with major implications for the 2024 election. By effectively shielding Trump from prosecution, the court has given him a significant advantage heading into the campaign. This decision has energized Trump's base, who see it as a validation of his claim that he's been unfairly targeted by the legal system. The ruling also poses a significant challenge for the Biden administration. With Trump now effectively immune from prosecution for many of his alleged crimes, Biden and his team are scrambling to find new strategies to hold him accountable. This legal limbo creates an environment where Trump can continue to rally his supporters while dodging legal consequences, making it harder for Biden to gain the upper hand. The implications of this ruling extend far beyond the immediate election. If Trump wins, he could have the opportunity to reshape the Supreme Court itself. With several justices in their 70s, a second Trump term could mean new appointments, potentially creating a conservative supermajority that could last for decades. This prospect raises the stakes of the 2024 election to unprecedented levels. The Supreme Court's decision has also intensified the debate over judicial reform. Many are calling for changes to how justices are appointed and how long they serve, arguing that the current system allows for too much political influence. This ruling could be the catalyst for significant changes to the judiciary, as lawmakers and activists push for reforms to ensure that the court remains a check on presidential power.
President Biden's health. Just this morning, Congressman Doggett said that he's calling on President Biden to withdraw from the race given
Joe Biden is our nominee. We beat Trump once and we're going to beat him again, period.
Notably in the debate, the president really struggled to articulate the party's position on reproductive rights.
Good gift for an idiot.
Future legal battles. The Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity has set the stage for a series of intense legal battles that will play out over the coming months and years. The decision has created a complex and contentious legal environment where every action taken by Trump will be scrutinized to determine whether it falls under the umbrella of official acts. Prosecutors are now facing an uphill battle as they attempt to navigate this new legal landscape. They will have to argue case by case that Trump's actions were not official, a process that will involve lengthy litigation and appeals. This ruling has effectively tied the hands of prosecutors, making it much harder to hold Trump accountable for his alleged crimes. The decision has also opened the door for Trump's legal team to challenge other cases on similar grounds. They will likely use this ruling as a precedent to argue for dismissals or delays in other prosecutions, creating a ripple effect that could impact multiple legal proceedings. This strategy will further complicate efforts to bring Trump to justice, prolonging the legal battles and creating uncertainty about the outcome. Justice Clarence Thomas's comments about the constitutionality of special counsels have added another layer of complexity to the legal landscape. Trump's attorneys are seizing on this argument to challenge the use of special counsels, despite their long-standing history. This move has the potential to disrupt ongoing investigations and prosecutions, adding another hurdle for those seeking to hold Trump accountable. Democracy at risk. The Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity has raised alarms about the future of American democracy. By granting immunity to a former president, the court has set a precedent that could have far-reaching implications for the balance of power and the rule of law. This decision has the potential to transform the presidency into a position of unchecked authority, undermining the principles of accountability and equality before the law. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent highlighted the dangers of this ruling, calling it a five-alarm fire for self-government. She warned that the decision creates a cloak of immunity that allows presidents to commit crimes without fear of prosecution. This ruling, she argued, turns the Constitution upside down and threatens the very foundations of democracy. The decision has also sparked a broader debate about the role of the Supreme Court in shaping the future of the country. Critics argue that the court has become too politicized, making decisions that favor certain political agendas over the principles of justice and equality. This ruling has intensified calls for judicial reform, as many believe that changes are needed to ensure that the court remains a check on presidential power. The ruling's impact on the upcoming election cannot be overstated. With Trump now effectively shielded from prosecution, the stakes of the 2024 election have never been higher. Voters will have to decide whether they want to support a candidate who has been granted immunity from prosecution, or if they will uphold the principle that no one is above the law. This decision has also raised concerns about the future of other key issues such as abortion, LGBTQ rights, and voting rights. With the potential for a conservative supermajority on the court, these issues could be revisited and potentially rolled back, further eroding the progress made in recent years. The Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity has set the stage for a contentious and high-stakes election, with the future of American democracy hanging in the balance. That's all for this video, folks. We'll see you next time.